I'm Sensei Alex Kakio, and the title of today's talk is Surrendering to the Form in Daily Life. But before we get into that, I'll remind you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. And if you'd like to do a deep dive into Buddhist training, check out my book, Perfectly Ordinary Buddhist Teachings for Everyday Life. It's available on Amazon, and there's a link to a free sample chapter in the description for this talk. In Buddhist training, we have something called forms, which is a very simple way of saying that we have a very precise way of doing certain things within the temple. There is a form for bowing, a form for chanting, a form for how we sit on the cushion, for eating our meals during retreats, placing our food or our shoes next to the door before we enter the sitting room. There's a form for everything. And as Westerners, it can be difficult to practice these forms. We like our individuality. We don't like being told what to do. And it can be especially trying when we have to engage in forms that we don't necessarily understand why they're there. However, if we're willing to surrender ourselves to these forms, we generally find that we gain something through the experience. We don't just learn Buddhism with our head, we learn it through our bodies as well. So for example, bowing is a form that teaches us humility. Chanting is a form that teaches us gratitude. Offering puja, or offerings at the altar, is a form that teaches us compassion. So again, when we engage with these forms, we learn something and we gain something as a result. But to really understand how this works, we have to understand that forms don't only exist within the temple, they exist in daily life as well. There is a form, that is, there is a correct way of doing things when we're cutting the grass. There's a form for making dinner, for washing the dishes, for caring for our plants and animals. And just like we don't always want to engage in the forms in the temple, we don't always want to engage in the forms required for daily life. I love my cat, Enzo. He's a huge part of my life, but I'll be honest, I don't always want to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning to feed him and give him water. Sometimes I wish he'd let me sleep in, but he is very clear that at 6 a.m. he wants to be fed. If not, he's going to pounce on my head until I get out of bed. Now, if I restrict myself, if I try to fight the form that's required in order for me to care for him, the only thing that happens is that I suffer and he suffers as a result. He doesn't get fed, I feel grouchy, no one wins. But when I submit to the form, when I swallow my pride, when I just get up and fill his food bowl, he gets his food, I'm up and going for the day, everyone wins. And oftentimes, when we have a form required of us in daily life, we have that same tension. We know we need to do it, but we don't necessarily want to do it. And to be clear, sometimes we shouldn't. We have to rely on our own inner wisdom to ensure that what's being asked of us doesn't cause harm to ourselves or others. But if the form is healthy, if it's life-affirming, oftentimes it's better to simply swallow our pride and to submit to whatever needs to be done, whether that's taking out the trash, washing the dishes, feeding the cat, because we're going to do it one way or another, so why make it worse for ourselves? And as we do this, we learn things. In the same way that giving an offering at the altar teaches me compassion, putting food in my cat's bowl also teaches me compassion. In the same way that sweeping the floors in the temple teaches me gratitude and respect, I learn that same thing when I wash dishes and sweep the floors in my own home. So again, daily life and life in the temple is filled with forms, filled with things that we have to do, and that we have to do in a very specific way in order for them to go well. Sometimes our ego, our desire gets in the way and we don't want to do these things, but generally, the only thing that ends up happening is one, we have to do them anyway, and two, we just create unnecessary suffering for ourselves and others. But if we rely on our inner wisdom and ensure that whatever's being asked of us is both healthy and life affirming for ourselves and others, then oftentimes it's better to simply surrender to the form required of us in daily life, and then everyone is at peace as a result. So that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to read articles I've written about Buddhist practice, you can do that by visiting my blog, The Same Old Zen. The link for that is in the description for this talk. Also, if you'd like to keep the conversation going, please leave a comment in the comments section below. I love hearing from you guys, and I promise I'll respond. So that's it for today. Until next time, Amitabha.